If you cash out crypto the wrong way, you're wasting tens of thousands in fees and risking your money with platforms that could disappear overnight. But fortunately, it's never been easier or safer to cash out the right way, with real brick and mortar banks, even if you've never done it before. So in this video, I'll show you exactly how my clients are cashing out their crypto without losing a dime to shady exchanges or getting crushed by hidden fees. Now, I'm going to be trying to keep this as actionable as possible. So I'm going to be talking about three specific groups. First, guys that are looking to cash out $500,000 or less. Second, guys that are looking to cash out between $500,000 and $1 million. And then third, guys that are looking to cash out $1 million or more. And this third group is where most of our clients come in, usually cashing out between $2 million and $10 million. And for the most part, we're talking about cashing out in one transaction. But if you're just looking to drip feed your bank account with a few $1,000s every month, you're gonna have some options too. Okay, so if you fall into one of these three groups, there are basically four factors that will determine how you should approach cashing out your crypto. We've already covered the first factor, which is how much you're cashing out. Next is what's your citizenship, followed by where do you live, and then finally, what do you plan to do with the money after it's into the financial system? Now, I used to include a fifth factor, which was what is your crypto profile? Meaning, are you a trader, a black market buyer, early adopter, etc., etc. But while this is still relevant, cashing out has become a lot more streamlined, and service providers and banks are more sophisticated. So now most people will have options to open accounts and cash out as long as they can pass standard due diligence. But these other four factors, they can have a real influence on where and how you cash out, especially your citizenship and your residency. So let's talk about them first. Now, citizenship is easy. Do you have a high-risk passport? If not, you can pass go. But if you come from a high-risk country, then you'll have fewer options available to you. And if you're an American, you have even less options to choose from. That's not because US citizens are high risk, but in the eyes of many international offshore banks, US clients are a burden. So if that's you, you'll have fewer options than, say, a Brit or a Canadian. Now, the next important factor is where do you live? And to make this really simple for you, I'm just gonna throw up a list of countries on the screen. Basically, if you live in one of these countries on the screen right now, then it becomes easier to open accounts because you'll have more options available to you. Now, if your country is not listed, just comment the name of the country below and we'll confirm if you have options available or not. All right, so before I take this down, I do want to share an important point because lots of people have crypto. Lots of people want to cash out crypto and lots of people think they should be able to cash out crypto with whatever bank they choose. But if you don't have an acceptable profile, meaning citizenship, residency, deposit amount, etc., that a bank can work with, then it's going to be really tough to find banks that are going to be willing to accept you. And this can be really time consuming and very frustrating. So if you just want to skip all the headaches and get a free assessment from our team so you can tell if you qualify to open and cash out your crypto or not, just click the link in the description and share a few high-level details about yourself. We even have a priority option that includes a short list of countries, short list of banks, and a private one-on-one strategy call to answer all of your questions. So that's another option if you're looking for something a bit more complete and personal. Okay, now back to this list, because it isn't exhaustive. If you don't live in these countries, you still have options. There are still banks and other financial institutions that will cash out your crypto for you, or basically for anyone, from almost any country, even with very low deposits. But personally, when I hear of banks with low deposit requirements accepting people from all over the world, including with crypto-sourced wealth, it usually sounds too good to be true. That doesn't mean these options can't be useful. It just means you need to be careful how you use them. All right, so far, we've talked about how much you want to deposit, what's your citizenship, and where do you maintain your tax residency. And the fourth factor is your plan for money after you cash out. But this fourth factor is really only relevant for the third group of people that we're going to be talking about, guys looking to cash out 1 million or more. So before we dig into this fourth factor, let's look at the first two groups, starting with guys looking to cash out 500,000 or less. And we hear from a lot of people in this group, usually with a couple 100,000 in crypto. Here, you're basically going to use one of three options to off-ramp your crypto. First are the smaller off-ramps and banks. Next, debit cards tied to an exchange, or third, transfers to banks that basically go unnoticed. The smaller off-ramps include a few banks in different countries, especially in Europe and the Caribbean, where you can open an account, custody crypto directly, and then withdraw it. Now, the pros to using a bank in this category is that there are limited restrictions. Basically, anyone can qualify, and it gets you a direct off-ramp and on-ramp into the banking system. Now, the downside with this approach is that the banks are often small, in countries with a lack of regulatory clarity, and frankly, the entity taking custody of the crypto, it's often not a bank, but instead just an unlicensed trust entity. Now, like I said, This path can be useful, but you need to be careful, and it's not a long-term solution for managing your wealth. Now, there are lots of other off-ramps to consider outside of the banking space, and this is an important option that a lot of people should be looking at. Basically, you can use a digital banking platform or EMI to off-ramp your crypto and then bring it into the banking system with banks that are comfortable with crypto-sourced wealth, which ends up being a less direct path to cashing out, but it gives you a lot cleaner entry point into banks and can often lead to longer-term banking relationships, more reputable, better, stronger banks. And again, these options are for guys looking to cash out less than 500,000 USD worth of crypto in one or as few transactions as possible. Your other options here are to use debit cards that are linked to your crypto exchange account or to slowly withdraw and just send transfers to your domestic bank account. And I say domestic because this usually works if your exchange and your bank account are in the same country, which tends to be your country of residence. Think Americans living in the US with a US Coinbase account and a Bank of America account. If that's you, you're probably good. Though it is worth noting that very few banks actually have an open door policy to crypto sourced wealth. So while you may be able to send transfers from a domestic exchange to a domestic bank account, it's not an official path backed by bank policy. It's more of a blind spot that either goes unnoticed or is just being willfully ignored. So there's still a chance that you're going to get transactions frozen or your accounts even get shut down. Now, if you're in the next tier, which is cashing out between 500,000 to $1 million, you can use the same options that we just covered. But at this level, you can access what we consider to be the best option for cashing out crypto, which involves cashing out directly through the banking system with strong banks in very reputable jurisdictions. Now, the total amount that you're planning to cash out does matter here. So you'll obviously have access to more banks when you're cashing out between 1 and 2 million, which we're about to discuss. But you can still lock in good options with at least 500,000 USD worth of crypto, especially if you live in one of the countries that we put up on the screen earlier in the video. Now, the onboarding process is relatively straightforward at this level, the same as opening a standard bank account, with the potential for a bit more due diligence depending on how you came to own your crypto. And what's really interesting with this option compared to options that we're going to be talking about the next tier, so $1 million and up, is that here you don't have to invest. There's no long-term commitment required, and you're basically just going to be getting access to a credible and reliable off-ramp for your crypto. Now, when you start going above this level, or rather using banks that require you to come in above this level, you're going to start dealing with institutions that want to see a longer-term commitment and investing. So before I talk about cashing out with 1 million or more, let's get back to factor number 4, which is your plan for the money after you cash out. You see, at the other tiers, 0 to 500, 500 to 1 million, it doesn't really matter what you do with the money afterwards. But when you start to approach banks that want to see 1 to 2 million as a starting balance, they're going to have expectations. So in order for you to qualify to open with this next group of banks, you should really be looking for a longer term partner that's going to help you in one of 3 ways. First, managing part of your wealth. Say you cash out 3 million and want to invest 1 million through the bank, or investing through the bank directly, basically trading your own account through the bank, or using the bank's crypto-related services, such as staking services, crypto trading, or even borrowing against your portfolio. Of course, you don't have to use these services if you don't want to. Instead, you can just use one of the banks or platforms that we covered in the previous 2 groups to off-ramp your crypto. But if you want to access some of the largest and most reputable banks that are playing in the crypto space right now, that's what's going to be expected. That's why this 3rd group gets access to the final option, which is directly custodying your crypto with some of the best private banks in the world. And this is how most of our clients are choosing to cash out, with banks in places like Switzerland, Liechtenstein, even Singapore. And if you want our team to tell you if you qualify to open accounts and cash out with these banks, you can click the link below, fill out the free assessment, and we'll tell you. But like I said, the banks at this level are going to expect you to invest. Because private banks don't just want you to deposit crypto, convert to USD, and then watch you walk away. They're looking to establish a long-term, mutually beneficial relationship where your assets are going to be protected and grown in the custody of some of the strongest banks in the world. And if you can afford to get in, this is probably the best option in terms of establishing a relationship based on crypto-sourced wealth. Because here, you don't have to cash out. You can keep holding your crypto, avoid a capital gains trigger, and borrow against your crypto to do whatever you want. But regardless of how you plan on cashing out or what you plan on doing with it after it's converted, there are really important rules you need to follow and understand if you want your bank account approved. The sort of rules that most bankers don't even understand because they don't specialize in helping crypto clients like we do. So I broke down these rules for you, including the least known and most misunderstood rules in the world of crypto banking, and I shared them in this video right now. These are the sort of rules that will basically determine if you can get your account open or not. So give that video a click and I'll see you over there right now.